Many Yijing books contain rules or assumptions that you should follow when you consult the oracle. A lot of Yijing users believe these rules and follow them blindly. In this video I want to address some of these rules and beliefs. Rules that I have seen in several books or on websites. Are these rules really necessary, or can you use the Yijing in a meaningful way without following these rules? I am also going to address some habits that many users have when they consult the Yijing. To illustrate these rules and habits, and to make this movie more fun, I hired an actor. Sylvian, let's do this, shall we?
Yes.
Rule number 1. Choose a quiet place where you cannot be interrupted.
It's too dark in here.
I can understand that when you consult the Yijing, you prefer a quiet place where you will not be disturbed, but sometimes such a place is not available. Does that mean that you can't consult the Yijing? No. Oracles that use meaningful chants, like the Yijing, always work and always produce meaningful answers, regardless of the place where you consult it. You can consult it
Here. Or here. Or here. Or here. Oh here. Oh here.
maybe not on the toilet, but you get the idea. No matter where you consult the Book of Changes, you will always get a meaningful response. You can trust on that. Rule number 2. Calm your mind. Do you really have to be in a peaceful and tranquil state when you consult the Yijing? Not really. Your state of mind does not affect the answer that the oracle gives you. You will always get what you need, and it should be presumptuous to think that your thoughts and emotions could influence the oracle. Meaningful chance is not bothered by anger, rage, sadness or anxiety. You will get what you need, and what you get will be something that will progress you in your current situation. It will always be to your advantage, no matter the state that you are in. However, when you want to interpret the answer, it can be helpful that you are not bothered by emotions or distracting thoughts. But you can always do the interpretation later. For the creation of the hexagram, your state of mind is not important. So next time you are angry, just throw the coins. Not out of the window. That would not be to your advantage. Rule number 3. Phrase your question very carefully. Choose your words wisely. The question decides the quality of the answer. You will find this rule in most Western Yijing books, and even in modern Yijing books from China. The quality and phrasing of the question decides the quality and usefulness of the answer. The funny thing is, in none of my ancient Chinese books on the Yijing I have read anything about the importance of the question. Even Zhu Xi does not mention it in his explanation of the Yarrow stalk method. All he gives is an invocation that implies you have to approach the oracle with respect. He does not say you have to think about the words of your question. When we look at the oldest oracles from China, the oracle bones, we see that they did not really ask questions. They stated intentions, wishes they would like to see fulfilled. Or they used statements to find out which ancestor was the cause of misfortune, like, the toothache is not due to ancestor so and so. And then they consulted the oracle, but they did not ask questions. What we can learn from this is that the question does not have any influence on the outcome. Instead of a question, we could also use a word, a statement, or a theme, and the answer of the E will say something about that word, statement, or theme. Or you could ask no question whatsoever, just leave it to the E to tell you what you need to know. I'm not saying that questions are bad, or that carefully composed questions are useless, but a question is not a necessity when you consult the Yijing. As long as you know what you require from the oracle, you are good to go. And it does not matter if or how you put that to words. Rule number 4. No yes or no questions. Sylvian, did you brush your teeth?
I like the Yijing. No yes or no questions.
This is similar to rule number 3. When the question itself is not really important and does not have any influence on the outcome, it is also fine to ask closed questions that can only be answered with yes or no. Again, in ancient China, they did not limit the usability of the Yijing. You could ask anything you want, including yes or no questions. This idea that you should avoid certain types of questions really seems to be a Western approach that was unknown in China. If you want to ask a closed question, go ahead. Keep in mind that the Yi will always answer your question. Otherwise it would be a stupid oracle. Oracles answer questions. It is as simple as that. They do that by giving you images, and in these images lies your answer. These images can also contain the answer to yes or no questions. Images can answer any question or address any situation. So don't be afraid to ask yes or no questions. There is nothing wrong with that. Rule number 5. Only ask important questions.
World peace.
Who decides what is important? If for some reason it is essential for you to ask the Yi what you need to wear for dinner, just do so. There is nothing you cannot ask the Yijing. You and you alone decide the importance or triviality of the question. Don't let anyone dictate when and how you should use the Book of Changes. That includes me as well. Who am I to tell you what you should and shouldn't do? Just realize that you have a choice. You and no one else choose how you use the book. Rule number 6. Use Yarrow stalks, not coins. Yarrow results in better answers. Yarrow is much better than coins.
I don't agree.
Many users of the Book of Changes think that the Yarrow stalk method of consultation is the oldest method and therefore is also the most accurate method. But the way we use the Yarrow stalks these days is the method given by Zhu Xi, based on the short description given in the Dazhuan section of the 10 Wings. In Zhu Xi's time, this was not the only existing interpretation of the milfoil method. Zhu Xi wrote a detailed critique on several other variations that were proposed by other scholars, which shows that there was not really a consensus on how the Yarrow stalk should be used. We might even be doing it wrong. Zhu Xi lived during the 12th century, which means that the current Yarrow stalk method is not older than 850 years or so. The coin method, however, is already mentioned in the commentary to the Yi Li by Jia Gongyan, who lived during the 7th century, which means that the coin method is much older than our current Yarrow stalk method. Apart from age, Several authors have come up with philosophical reasons why this Yarrow method should be better than the coin method or any other method. But if we don't know if the current method is the original method, I don't see why you could say that it is better than any other method. The fact is that every method has its consequences, and every method can result in a useful and meaningful answer. Use what you see fit. Generate meaningful chance with whatever you like. Use Yarrow, coins, dice, cards, rocks, leaves, the ashes of your grandmother. I don't care as long as you are able to get an answer that is not influenced by your will and limited perception of your situation. Any random token generator can be used for that, and any method will result in something you can work with. Rule number 7. Focus on your question. Remember to stay focused on your dilemma or subject or question when casting. Don't let yourself be distracted.
Oh no.
The nice thing of oracles like the Yijing is that they always work. It doesn't really matter if you are in the right place, in the right mood or in the right time. You always get something that will help you. That also means that it really doesn't matter in what way the answer is generated. The way you use your random token generator really does not have any influence on the comprehensibility of the answer of the Yijing. Trust that you will get what you need to advance in your situation. If you are disturbed or distracted by, for instance, a phone call, just put the coins aside, answer the phone, and afterwards continue where you left off. Your answer will not be less valid because you let yourself be interrupted. You could even get a hexagram by throwing one line a day. So next time someone shoves a donut under your nose, just enjoy it and finish your consultation later. You have your hexagram! Hooray! Now, read everything. If you don't understand the text, take another version of the Yijing. And another version. If you still don't get it, bummer. Poor Knight read a lot. He learned the hard way that the understanding of the I Ching's answer is not found in reading as many books as you can. In theory, it should not really matter which book you use. Every book will contain the answer, and if you don't understand it with the first copy that you take, you should wonder what it is that is keeping you from seeing what you need to see. After all, the Yi would not give you a text that you are not able to understand, right? If you don't understand the answer, then the reason for that is never found in external causes. Now, often when a user is stuck in comprehending the answer that the Yijing gave, all the rules that I covered so far can be used as very convenient fire exits. I don't have a clue what the Yijing is trying to tell me. Of course, I did not calm my mind before I consulted it. Oh no, I did not focus on the question when I threw the coins. That must be it. Or maybe I did not phrase my question precisely enough. Yes, that must be the reason why the answer from the Yi doesn't make any sense. So instead of taking the time to delve into the symbols, images and metaphors that the Yi is giving them, they discard what it gave them and they consult the book again. This time with another question, or another reason to avoid working with the answer of the Yi. Sounds familiar? Think about it. Why would the Yijing give you an answer that you are not able to understand? It would be a stupid oracle if it did that. So instead of looking for excuses why you don't get it, try to take a different approach. Try to say to yourself, I really don't understand what the Yi is trying to tell me. Now that is interesting. What is it in me that is keeping me from seeing what I need to know? Let's look at the symbols again. Paint a picture of it, write it into a story, be creative. The oracle uses symbols, not words, and if you are able to work with these symbols, you will always find your answer. Now you might say, symbols? What symbols? I don't see symbols in my version of the Yijing. If your version of the Yijing does not talk about dragons, or crossing the great water, or kings, armies and other imagery, then there is a good chance that you are not working with a translation of the Yijing, but with an interpretation. And you should avoid interpretations at all costs. Let me show this by using an example. This is the Chinese text of the line 2 of hexagram 37. In the popular translation by Richard Wilhelm, this reads as, she should not follow her whims. She must attend within to the food. Perseverance brings good fortune. Ignoring for now the question whether this is an accurate translation, the text contains several symbols that you can work with. There is mention of a woman, she is attending to food, probably inside the house. This is a picture that you can interpret for yourself. An interpretation does not contain such a picture. Let's look at what a, by many, highly admired interpretation has to say about this. Do not try to acquire a position through violence or aggressive behavior. Go quietly and with cautiousness to your goal, and do not let anything and no one lead you away from it. This is from the Dutch version which I translated to English, so it is likely that the words differ from the English original, but the general idea should be the same. Contrary to what the publisher's blurb wants you to believe, this text is an interpretation, not a translation. The author removed all the symbols, images and metaphors that are found in the Chinese original, probably thinking that he does the reader a favor with it. Gone is the food and attending to it, the woman and anything pointing to an inside or enclosure. And by removing these symbols, the reader is not working with anything that resembles the original Yijing. He is working with the perception that this author has of the Book of Changes. Let's take an even worse example. Again line 2 of hexagram 37. Get to know the people you work with. Find out what you are up against and who you're in with. With Brown-Walker's interpretation we could at least sense where he is getting it from, but with Case's version I honestly don't have a clue why he says what he says. Not only that, it is an utterly useless answer to a question like, what should I wear for dinner? Brown-Walker's interpretation would be similarly useless. These interpretations are one-dimensional. They can only be applied to a limited set of questions, whereas a translation that retains the original symbols is multidimensional and can be interpreted in different ways according to the situation or question. You might argue that a translation of the Yijing is also an interpretation. After all, the translator made certain choices that are not much different from the choices an interpreter would make. That is true, which is even more reason to stick with a translation instead of an interpretation. Interpretations are almost without exception based on translations. And if a translation is in part also an interpretation, then an interpretation like Brown-Walker's or Case's book is an interpretation of that interpretation, which without a doubt will lead to ideas and concepts that are not found in the Chinese original. This also goes for versions of the Yijing that have the appearance of a translation of the Book of Changes. Nothing works on the outside, but in the home the woman provides for her family. Right pushing brings gain. But what does it really say in the Yijing? Let's look at the Chinese original and provide it with a word-by-word translation. We see food and there is a center which can be read as inside. But wait, what happened to the woman? Exactly. In the Chinese original text of the Yijing there is no mention of a woman. Then how did she end up in Wilhelm's translation? A translation that forms the foundation of so many interpretations. This is because scholars like Wang Bi, Kong Yingda, Chang Yi and others say that this line talks about a woman. The commentaries that these scholars wrote were incorporated in the Imperial Jiaoyi Zedong edition that Wilhelm used for his translation, and his translation is highly influenced by these commentaries, just like James Legg's and other early translations. A notable exception is the translation by Thomas McClatchy, who keeps the woman out of his translation of line 2 of hexagram 37, but only mentions her in a footnote. As you have seen, later interpretations like Brown-Walker and Anand Nisar are influenced by the translations who see a woman in line 2 of hexagram 37, but in the original Chinese text of the Yijing, she is nowhere to be found. When you choose a Yijing version, you should ask yourself, do I want to work with the Yijing, or do I want to work with someone else's view of the Yijing? A translation that aims to show what is in the Chinese original comes closest to the former, while an interpretation will always give you the latter. Keep in mind that in China they did not have Yijing interpretations. All they had was technical manuals that described why the text of the Yijing says what it says, or explained certain key terms from the text. They did not have books that told you what the answer of the Yijing should mean to you in a consultation, which makes sense because interpreting the answer is something you have to do yourself. You can't let someone else tell you what the Yi and its answers mean to you. Interpreting the Yi and its answers is a too personal matter for that. So if you want to use the Yijing, you should find yourself a translation that retains the symbols of the original. Stay away from interpretations that want to tell you what the answer of the Yijing should mean to you. You will learn nothing from that. This also means that you do not have to read the interpretation that many translators add to their translations of the judgments text and line texts. Try to read the text of the Yijing as it is, without letting any biased commentary interfere with it. When you want to read the text of the Yijing, read the text of the Yijing and nothing else. End of digression. Back to the rules. Rule number 8. I don't understand the answer, so the Yi probably did not answer my question.
What is the answer to the ultimate question of life, the universe, and everything?
42.
The Yi will always answer your question, and it will always answer it in such a way that you will be able to understand it. But the Yi uses symbols and images that will not always answer your question directly, which means that sometimes you have to spend some time with it. Something that I also hear a lot is this. I asked the Yi a question about my relationship, but what it gave me did not at all have to do with my relationship, but with my work situation. Remember, the Yi always answers your question or addresses the situation that you consulted it for. It might be possible that the answer seems to fit another situation, but that does not mean that the Yi does not answer your initial question. When the answer seems to draw you to another topic and it seemingly pulls you away from your initial question, you might ask yourself what the similarities are between this other situation and your question. What do they have in common? And what does your attitude to this other situation tell you about your attitude towards the topic of your question? Don't immediately assume that Yi did not answer your question, but take the time to find the meanings and connection that the answer contains. It is possible that the answer from the Yi forms the center that connects the several other themes that are going on. Take the time to at least explore that option. Rule number 9. The Yijing is too difficult. It is so complex. Many books make the Yi look as if it is difficult to understand. Sure, you can make it as complex as you want. But the foundation of the book is really simple to understand. You have 8 trigrams and 6 lines. That is all you need to make a good start with using the Book of Changes. Don't think you should read all the 450 pieces of text that are in the Yijing, or, even worse, that you should read all the text that is found in your version of the book. The Yi is more than text. When you realize that, the book will do justice to another meaning of the character Yi. Besides change, it also means easy. Rule number 10. Rule number 10. Do you know other rules, habits or assumptions that users of the Book of Changes often resort to? Please let them know in the comments. I have tried to debunk some rules that I heard in the more than 35 years that I have been working with the Book of Changes. That does not mean I find rules meaningless. If certain rules or rituals help you to use the Yijing in a better or easier way, by all means use them. But don't let anyone tell you what you should or shouldn't do. The Yijing is a very personal oracle and only you decide in what way it will speak to you. That's it for now. I hope you enjoyed watching this video as we enjoyed making it. Sylvian, did you have fun?
Yes, I did.
Me too. Thanks for watching and see you next time. Bye.
Bye bye.